Admiral Park Min-jun sat in his chair deep inside Earth's Defense Command Center. The massive room buzzed with quiet activity as officers watched screens showing the empty space around Earth. It was a normal Tuesday morning until the emergency alarm started screaming. "Admiral, we have an unknown signal coming through the Deep Space Monitoring Array," called out Lieutenant Chen from her station. Her voice shook slightly. "Sir, this isn't from any of our ships or satellites." Park stood up and walked to the main display screen. Numbers and wave patterns danced across the monitor in ways he had never seen before. The signal was strong but strange, like someone shouting in a language that didn't exist. Dr. Kim Jae-ho rushed into the command center, his lab coat still buttoned wrong from running. As Earth's top expert on communication systems, he had been called the moment the signal appeared. He pushed his glasses up his nose and stared at the readings. "Admiral, this signal is using frequencies that our technology shouldn't be able to receive, Doctor," Kim said, his voice filled with wonder and worry. "The mathematical patterns suggest intelligence, but not human intelligence." Captain Lee So-young joined them at the main console. She was young for her rank but had earned her place through brilliant tactical thinking. Her dark eyes studied the patterns on the screen with intense focus. "Can we understand what it's saying?" Park asked. Dr. Kim typed rapidly on his keyboard. "I'm running it through every translation program we have. Wait, something is coming through now." The speakers crackled with static. Then, clear as day, words came through in broken English. "Help us, please, anyone who hears this message. We are dying. Our worlds are being consumed. The devourers have come to our system. Our fleets are destroyed. Our people are being eaten. If anyone can hear this, please help us. We are the Kethara Collective." Silence fell across the command center. Every person in the room stared at the speakers as if they might suddenly explain that this was all a mistake. "Play it again," Park ordered quietly. The message repeated, but this time with more desperation. The voice speaking was clearly not human, with musical tones that made their words sound like singing even while pleading for help. Commander Choi Hyun-woo arrived, breathing hard from running down 3 levels of stairs. He led Earth's newly formed First Contact Division, a department everyone hoped would never be needed. Today, it became the most important division in human history. "Admiral, are we really receiving an alien distress call?" Choi asked. "That appears to be the case," Park replied. "Dr. Kim, what else can you tell us about this signal?" Dr. Kim worked at his station, pulling up more data. "The signal is coming from a star system about 7 light-years away. Based on the transmission strength and the patterns, I estimate there are several sources broadcasting this message. They're not just calling for help from us, Admiral. They're calling for help from anyone who might be listening." "What did they say was attacking them?" Captain Lee asked. "Something called the Devourers," Dr. Kim replied. "Let me enhance the signal and see if there's more information." For the next 10 minutes, more pieces of the message came through. What they heard changed everything the human race thought they knew about their place in the universe. The Kethara described ships that ate metal and rock, growing larger with every planet they consumed. They told of biomechanical creatures that turned entire star systems into breeding grounds for more of their kind. The aliens painted a picture of horror that stretched across multiple worlds. But it was the video transmission that truly shocked everyone in the command center. The main screen flickered, then showed images from space. Massive organic ships, covered in what looked like teeth and tentacles, were literally eating a space station. As they watched, the station disappeared into the creature's mouth, and the alien ship grew noticeably larger. "Dear God," whispered Captain Lee. More images followed. Planets with huge chunks missing, as if someone had taken massive bites out of them. Fleets of crystalline ships, beautiful and delicate, being crushed by biomechanical monsters. The final image showed a planet that was completely hollow, its surface cracked and empty. "How long ago was this sent?" Park asked. Dr. Kim checked his readings. Based on the signal travel time, This was broadcast about 6 hours ago, Admiral. If they're still alive, they might have hours left, maybe less. The command center fell quiet again. Everyone understood what this meant. Somewhere in space, an entire civilization was about to die. And Earth was the only planet close enough to help. Admiral, Commander Choi said carefully, we have 12 ships in our fleet. The biggest one is the size of a city block. What we just saw on that screen could swallow our entire fleet, and not even notice. Park nodded slowly. He had been thinking the same thing. Earth's space fleet was designed to defend against asteroids and potential future human conflicts. They had never imagined facing organic ships the size of mountains. Sir, Captain Lee said quietly, what's our response time to that system? About 8 days if we push our engines to maximum, Park replied. But Lee, we don't even know if our weapons can hurt those things. But we know we can't ignore this, Dr. Kim said firmly. Admiral, if these creatures finished consuming the Keth-era system, where do you think they'll go next? Park felt ice run through his veins. He looked at the star charts on his screen. The Keth-era system was in a direct line between several other star systems and Earth's local area of the galaxy. They're not just calling for help, Park realized. They're warning us. If we don't stop these devourers there, they might come here next. The Admiral looked around the command center at his officers. Each face showed the same mix of fear and determination he felt in his own heart. They were facing the impossible. But doing nothing felt like a death sentence for 2 civilizations instead of 1. Commander Choi, contact all fleet captains immediately, Park ordered. Tell them to prepare for departure within 4 hours. Captain Lee, I want you to analyze every piece of that transmission for tactical information. Dr. Kim, keep monitoring that signal and try to establish 2-way communication. Admiral, Choi said slowly, are we really going to fight those things? Park stood straight and looked at the images still playing on the main screen. Somewhere in space, innocent beings were dying while calling for help that might never come. Commander, we're going to try. We're the only ones who can answer their call. And if we don't try, we'll never be able to live with ourselves. Humanity is going to war. The 12 ships of Earth's fleet hung in space like silver needles against the black. Admiral Park watched from the bridge of the flagship as crews made final preparations for humanity's first journey to another star system. In 8 hours, they would leave Earth behind and travel to help aliens they had never met. Captain Lee stood at the tactical station, her hands shaking slightly as she reviewed the limited information they had about their enemy. Admiral, I've analyzed the Kethera transmissions. The Devourers don't just attack randomly. They consume everything in a system before moving to the next one. How many ships are we facing? Park asked. Based on the background images, at least 300 large vessels in the advance force alone, Lee replied. Each one appears to be the size of our entire flagship. Commander Choi looked up from his communication station. Sir, I've established basic contact with the surviving Keth-era ships. They're hiding in an asteroid field near their 4th planet. The aliens seem shocked that anyone answered their call. Dr. Kim entered the bridge carrying a tablet full of translation data. Admiral, I've learned more about the Keth-era. They're a peaceful trading civilization. Their entire culture is based on harmony and cooperation. They've never fought a war in their recorded history. That explains why they're losing so badly, Lee observed. They have no idea how to fight something like this. The fleet began its journey into hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system for the first time in human history. During the long week of travel, the crew learned more about their enemy through additional Kethera transmissions. The Devourers had appeared without warning 3 months ago. They consumed planets by breaking them apart and feeding the matter into biomechanical processing ships. Every piece of rock, metal, and organic material became part of their growing fleet. Worse, they seemed to learn from each battle, adapting their tactics based on how their enemies fought. They've destroyed 17 different civilizations in the past 1,000 years, Doctor, Kim reported during a briefing session. Each time, they grow stronger and smarter. The Kethara are just the latest in a long line of victims. Captain Lee studied the tactical reports. Admiral, there's something strange about the attack patterns. The Devourers seem to avoid certain types of resistance. Look at this data from the civilizations they destroyed. Park examined the charts Lee had prepared. What am I looking at? Every civilization they've conquered has been peaceful or defensive in nature, Lee explained. Scientists, traders, philosophers, I can't find any evidence that they've ever faced a truly aggressive military force. You think that might be an advantage? Commander Choi asked. Maybe, Lee replied. The Kethara fight by trying to protect their civilians and infrastructure. They pull back when threatened and try to preserve what they can. But what if we did the opposite? What if we attacked them directly? Dr. Kim looked concerned. Captain, these creatures are the size of small moons. Our largest weapons might not even scratch them. During the journey, long-range sensors began picking up signs of the devastation ahead. Dead star systems floated in space, like cosmic graveyards. Entire planets had been reduced to empty shells or consumed completely. The crew watched in silence as they passed system after system that showed no signs of life. How many people lived in these systems? Asked Lieutenant Park, the ship's communications officer. Based on the Kethara records, approximately 40 billion beings across 6 systems, Dr. Kim replied quietly. The weight of those numbers settled over the crew. They were traveling to face the killers of 40 billion innocent lives with just 12 ships and 3,000 human crew members. On the 7th day of travel, they reached the Kethara system. What they found was worse than the transmissions had shown. Admiral, sensors are detecting massive debris fields where 3 planets used to be, Captain Lee reported. The 4th planet still exists, but approximately 60% of its mass has been consumed. Where are the Kethara survivors? Park asked. Commander Choi worked at his station. I'm receiving their signal from the asteroid field near the 4th planet. Admiral, they're sending new transmissions. 8. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be a crystalline spaceship. A being made of living crystal stood before the camera, its body pulsing with soft blue light. When it spoke, its voice was like music mixed with sadness. Unknown vessels, please identify yourselves. We are what remains of the Kethara collective. If you have come to help us, we thank you, but we fear it is too late. The Devourers will return soon to finish consuming our world. Commander Choi activated the communication system. This is the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call and came to offer assistance. The crystal being's light flickered in what might have been surprise. Earth? We have no record of your civilization. How far have you traveled to answer our call? About 7 light years, Park replied. We came as soon as we received your message. The being was quiet for a long moment. You traveled 7 light years to help strangers you have never met? Your species must be very different from ours. We contacted 47 known civilizations. None came to help us. Dr. Kim leaned toward the microphone. Can you tell us about the Devourers? We need to understand how they fight. They do not fight as we understand fighting, the Kethara replied. They simply consume. Our weapons damage them, but they repair themselves using the matter they eat. Every attack we make costs us ships and crew, while they grow stronger. Captain Lee studied the scanner readings. Admiral, I'm detecting movement at the edge of the system. Something large is coming out of hyperspace. The main screen switched to show long-range sensors. Massive organic shapes were appearing in space, their surfaces covered with what looked like teeth and feeding tentacles. Even at this distance, the size difference was overwhelming. How many ships are in that fleet? Park asked. Preliminary count shows 230 vessels. Lee replied. Admiral, The smallest one is 3 times the size of our flagship. The Kethara being's light dimmed with fear. They have returned. Unknown humans, you should flee while you can. Your ships are brave to come this far, but they are too small to matter against such a force. Park looked around his bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same mixture of fear and determination he felt in his own heart. They had traveled across space to help strangers, and now they faced an enemy that could destroy them without effort. But something about the Kethara's resignation bothered him. These aliens had fought defensively, trying to preserve what they could, while slowly losing everything. They had never fought with the desperate fury of a species that refused to give up. "Captain Lee, move our fleet to intercept the Devourer advance guard," Park ordered. "All ships, prepare for battle." "Admiral, are you sure about this?" Commander Choi asked. Park watched the enemy fleet approaching on the screen. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of predatory fish, confident in their superiority. "Commander, they've never faced anyone who fought back with everything they had. Every species they've destroyed tried to preserve something while fighting. But we're humans. We know how to fight when there's nothing left to lose." The 12 ships of Earth's fleet turned toward the approaching monsters, and humanity prepared for its first battle among the stars. The Devourer fleet moved through space like a plague of living nightmares. Their biomechanical ships pulsed with organic rhythms, covered in feeding tentacles that reached out hungrily toward the asteroids floating nearby. Admiral Park watched them approach and felt his stomach turn at their alien wrongness. "Admiral, the enemy is beginning to consume the outer asteroids," Captain Lee reported. "They're converting the matter into more ship components, in real time." Park studied the tactical display. The Devourers moved in a perfect grid formation, each ship maintaining exact distances from its neighbors. Their approach was methodical and confident, like farmers coming to harvest a field. "They're not even considering us a threat," Commander Choi observed. "Look at their formation. They're treating this like a routine feeding operation." Dr. Kim looked up from his analysis station. "Admiral, I've been studying their movement patterns. They expect their enemies to cluster together defensively around key positions. Every civilization they've fought has tried to protect something while fighting them." "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" Park asked. "I'm suggesting we don't fight like every other species they've conquered, Doctor," Kim replied. "We don't have anything here to protect except each other and the Kethara survivors. We can fight without worrying about preserving infrastructure or civilians." Captain Lee's eyes lit up with understanding. "Admiral, he's right. We can use the entire asteroid field as our battlefield. We don't need to hold any position or protect any specific location." Park made his decision. "All ships, scatter formation. Use the asteroids as cover and prepare for guerrilla tactics. We're going to show these monsters what a predator species looks like when it's hunting." The 12 human ships broke formation and disappeared into the asteroid field. Each vessel found hiding spots behind large rocks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It was a tactic that no peaceful civilization would ever consider. The lead Devourer ships entered the asteroid field, their feeding tentacles reaching out to consume the floating rocks. They showed no caution, no awareness that enemies might be hiding among the debris. "Target the lead ship," Park ordered. "All weapons. Concentrated fire on its feeding mechanisms." The human ships erupted from their hiding spots like angry wasps. Laser cannons and missile launchers fired in perfect coordination, targeting the most vulnerable parts of the biomechanical creature. The Devourer's feeding tentacles exploded in sprays of organic fluid. The massive creature reeled backward, its harmonious movement disrupted for the first time. Immediately, the other Devourer ships began moving to assist it. But the humans had already disappeared, back into the asteroid field. "Direct hit confirmed," Captain Lee reported with excitement. "The target ship is leaking biological fluids and has lost 30% of its feeding capacity. Why didn't it regenerate immediately?" Dr. Kim wondered aloud. "The Kethara reports said they could repair damage instantly. Commander Choi was monitoring the enemy communications. "Admiral, they're broadcasting to each other in what sounds like confusion. I think we surprised them." The Devourer fleet began to change formation, spreading out to search the asteroid field. But they were still moving predictably, like a hive mind that had never learned to adapt to truly chaotic tactics. Captain Lee launched the second attack from a completely different angle. Her ship dove through a gap between two asteroids and fired everything it had at a Devourer's propulsion systems. The massive creature lurched sideways, crashing into one of its neighbors. "They're not independent fighters," Lee realized over the communication system. "They're all connected to some kind of central intelligence. When we disrupt one ship, it confuses the others nearby." Park saw the opportunity immediately. "All ships, random attack patterns. Hit them from different angles simultaneously. Don't let their collective intelligence predict our movements." The human fleet began a deadly dance through the asteroid field. They would appear from behind a rock, fire everything they had, then disappear before the Devourers could respond. Each attack targeted different systems on different ships, creating maximum confusion in their linked minds. The Keth-Ara survivors watched in amazement as the tiny human ships caused chaos among the massive biomechanical fleet. The crystalline being appeared on the communication screen again. "How are you doing this?" the alien asked in wonder. "Your ships are so small compared to theirs, but you're causing damage we never achieved with our larger fleet." "We're not trying to protect anything," Park replied while coordinating another attack run. "We're just trying to hurt them as much as possible before they destroy us." "But that's insane," the Kethara responded. "You're sacrificing your ships for temporary damage." "Maybe," Park admitted as he watched Captain Lee's ship take a direct hit from a biomechanical weapon. "But we're making them pay for every meter of space they take." Captain Lee's ship was badly damaged but still fighting. Her voice came over the radio, strained but determined. "Admiral, I've lost main engines and half my weapons, but I'm still mobile. Permission to ram the nearest Devourer." "Denied, Captain. Pull back and let the other ships cover you." But Lee had discovered something important. "Admiral, when I took that hit, I was close enough to scan their internal structure. These things aren't just biomechanical. They have mechanical cores surrounded by organic growth. If we can reach the cores, we might be able to shut them down completely." Dr. Kim's voice came through the communication system from his position aboard the science vessel. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from the damaged Devourers. Captain Lee is right. The organic parts are grown around mechanical frameworks. If we destroy the frameworks, the biological components might not be able to maintain cohesion." The battle continued for 3 hours. The human ships darted between asteroids, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. They lost the science vessel when it got too close to a Devourer's defensive systems. But Dr. Kim, and most of his crew, managed to evacuate to another ship before the explosion. Gradually, the tide began to turn. The Devourer's perfect formation fell apart as damaged ships struggled to maintain position. Their collective intelligence seemed overwhelmed by the unpredictable human tactics. "Admiral, enemy ships are beginning to retreat," Commander Choi reported with amazement. "They're actually pulling back." Park couldn't believe it. The massive biomechanical ships were withdrawing from the asteroid field, leaving behind the broken hulks of 7 destroyed vessels. The humans had lost 3 ships, but they had proven something that no other species had managed to prove. The Devourers could be beaten, but as the enemy withdrew, long-range sensors detected something that chilled everyone's blood. The retreating ships were transmitting data to something much larger, waiting at the edge of the system. "Admiral," Captain Lee said quietly, "I'm reading a massive energy signature approaching from outside the system. Whatever is coming, it's at least 50 times larger than anything we just fought." The main Devourer fleet was coming, and humanity's small victory suddenly seemed very insignificant against what was approaching. "How long until they arrive?" Park asked. 6 hours, Admiral, maybe less." Park looked at his remaining 9 ships, and the handful of Kethara survivors they were protecting. In 6 hours, they would face the true strength of the force that had consumed entire civilizations. All ships, begin immediate repairs and resupply from the asteroid field, he ordered. We're going to need everything we have for what's coming next. As the human fleet prepared for the battle of their lives, the Kethara survivors began broadcasting a new message to anyone who might be listening. But this time, it wasn't a call for help. It was a warning about the humans who had dared to fight the Devourers and actually hurt them. Word was spreading through the galaxy that someone had finally stood up to the monsters, and other species were beginning to listen. The main Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace like a nightmare made real. Admiral Park stared at the tactical display and felt his mouth go dry. The enemy formation stretched across space for hundreds of kilometers, thousands of biomechanical ships surrounding something that defied comprehension. Admiral, sensors are having trouble getting accurate readings on the central structure. Captain Lee reported from her damaged ship. It's the size of a small moon. But it's not solid. The entire thing appears to be alive. Dr. Kim had moved to the flagship after losing his science vessel. He worked frantically at a borrowed station, analyzing the incoming data. Admiral, that central structure isn't just a ship. It's some kind of mobile nest or hive. Every Devourer ship we've encountered was grown from that thing. The massive nest pulsed with organic rhythms, its surface covered in what looked like construction bays where new biomechanical ships were being assembled from consumed matter. Feeding tubes connected it to smaller vessels that were pumping raw materials into its growing bulk. How many ships are we facing? Park asked. Initial count shows over 3,000 vessels, Lee replied. Admiral, our entire fleet could fit inside the smallest escort ship. Commander Choi looked up from his communication station with surprise. Admiral, I'm receiving transmissions from multiple sources throughout the system. It's not just the Kethara anymore. Other species are responding to our battle with the advanced scouts. The main screen split to show several different alien faces. Alongside the crystalline Kethara, Park saw beings made of living metal. Creatures that looked like floating jellyfish. And others too strange to easily describe. This is Captain Vex High, of the Metallic Consortium, one of the aliens said. We have been hiding in the outer system for 2 months, waiting for the Devourers to finish and leave. But you humans have done something impossible. You made them retreat. A jellyfish-like being spoke next. I am Flow Singer Gentai of the Drift Collective. Our ships are not built for war, but we have supplies and energy cores that might help your vessels. Doctor, Kim leaned toward the microphone. How many ships do you have in total? 47 vessels from 6 different species, the Kethara representative replied. We have been refugees, hiding and waiting for death. But your courage has given us hope. Close. Park felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. These aliens were looking to humanity for leadership in a battle that seemed impossible to win. But something about their situation reminded him of Earth's military history. All vessels, this is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're facing overwhelming odds, but that doesn't mean we're going to lose. Every species here has something the Devourers have never faced before. What do you mean? Asked Captain Vex High. You're all survivors, Park explained. Every ship here has already lived through the impossible. The Devourers are used to fighting civilizations that had everything to lose. But we've already lost everything except each other. Captain Lee understood immediately. Admiral, you're proposing a suicide mission. Not suicide, Park corrected. A mission where we're willing to sacrifice everything to achieve our objective. There's a difference. Dr. Kim had been studying the readings from the massive nest. Admiral, I think I know what we need to target. That central structure isn't just growing new ships. It's storing something much more important. What do you mean? Park asked. The energy readings suggest it contains the accumulated intelligence of every civilization the Devourers have consumed, Dr. Kim explained. Every species they've destroyed is stored in there as digital consciousness. The nest doesn't just build ships, it processes and stores the minds of entire civilizations. The implications hit everyone immediately. The Devourers weren't just killing their victims, they were imprisoning them forever. If we could disrupt that central processing system, Dr. Kim continued, we might not just stop the Devourers. We might be able to free the minds of billions of beings they've captured over the centuries. Captain Lee studied the tactical situation. Admiral, there's no way our combined fleet can fight through 3,000 ships to reach that nest. But, if a small team could get inside, it would be a one-way mission, Commander Choi pointed out. Even if the team succeeded in disrupting the nest, they'd never make it out alive. Park looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had volunteered to travel across space to help strangers. Now, they were facing the ultimate test of that commitment. I need volunteers for an infiltration mission, Park announced over the fleet communication system. We're going to capture some small Devourer vessels and use them to get inside that nest. The mission is to plant Dr. Kim's viral weapon inside their central processing core. Sir, I volunteer, Captain Lee said immediately. As do I, added Commander Choi. Dr. Kim nodded. Admiral, I have to go personally. The weapon needs to be calibrated to their specific system architecture, and I'm the only one who knows how to do it. Over the next hour, volunteers came forward from every species in their small fleet. Humans, Kethara, and aliens Park had never seen before all stepped forward to join the suicide mission. The plan was desperate but simple. They would capture 3 damaged Devourer scouts from the earlier battle and use them to approach the nest. While the main fleet provided a diversion attack, the infiltration team would plant Dr. Kim's weapon inside the central processing core. Remember, Dr. Kim told the infiltration team as they prepared to board the captured alien vessels, the weapon doesn't just destroy their systems. It's designed to free any imprisoned consciousnesses we find in there. If I'm right, we might have some unexpected allies once we activate it. Captain Lee led the first infiltration ship, with Dr. Kim aboard as the technical specialist. Commander Choi commanded the second vessel, while a brave Kethara pilot named Crystal Singer Mordeth took the third ship with a mixed crew of aliens. The main fleet began their diversionary attack, all 47 ships charging directly at the massive Devourer formation. It was hopeless and heroic and completely insane, exactly the kind of tactic that no peaceful civilization would ever consider. The Devourers responded predictably, moving their ships to intercept the attacking fleet. In the chaos of battle, 3 small biomechanical vessels slipped unnoticed toward the massive nest at the center of the enemy formation. We're inside their perimeter, Captain Lee reported over the secure channel. Beginning approach to the nest's docking bays. Dr. Kim watched his scanners as they drew closer to the enormous structure. Lee, I'm reading massive data flows throughout this thing. There are definitely preserved consciousnesses in here, probably millions of them. The infiltration began just as the main fleet's diversionary attack reached its climax. Admiral Park watched from his flagship as brave ships from a dozen species threw themselves against overwhelming odds, buying time for the mission that might save the galaxy. But as Captain Lee's team penetrated deeper into the nest, they discovered something that changed everything about their understanding of the enemy they were fighting. Captain Lee guided her captured Devourer vessel through the massive nest's biomechanical corridors. The walls pulsed with organic rhythms, and strange lights flickered through transparent tubes filled with flowing data streams. Dr. Kim worked at his scanner station, his face growing pale as he studied the readings. Lee, this place is worse than we imagined, he whispered. I'm detecting millions of individual consciousness patterns. Every being the Devourers have consumed over the past 1,000 years is stored in here, aware and suffering. Can your weapon free them? Lee asked. I think so, but there's something else. The conscious minds aren't just stored here. They're being used to run the Devourer collective intelligence. Every ship, every decision, every attack is powered by the enslaved minds of their victims. Commander Choi's voice came through their communication system from his infiltration ship. Admiral Park, we've reached the central processing core. Dr. Kim, this place is massive. Where exactly do we need to plant the weapon? Dr. Kim studied the structural scans. There should be a main data nexus at the center of the core. Look for the area with the highest concentration of consciousness patterns. Outside the nest, the diversionary battle raged with desperate intensity. Admiral Park watched as ship after ship from their small fleet was destroyed by overwhelming devourer numbers. The aliens who had joined them fought with courage that amazed him, but they were losing badly. "Admiral, we've lost the Metallic Consortium flagship," reported his tactical officer. "The Drift Collective is down to 2 ships. We can't maintain this diversion much longer." "Hold the line," Park ordered. "Give the infiltration team every second you can." Inside the nest, Captain Lee's team had found the central nexus. It was a chamber the size of a cathedral, filled with billions of glowing data streams that represented imprisoned minds. At the center stood a massive organic computer that pulsed with alien thought patterns. Dr. Kim began setting up his viral weapon, while Lee and her crew provided security. But as he worked, something unexpected happened. The flowing data streams began to shift and change, forming patterns that looked almost like words. "Dr. Kim," Lee called out. "Are you seeing this?" The data streams were spelling out messages in dozens of different languages. "Help us. Free us. Stop the pain." The enslaved consciousnesses had detected the humans and were trying to communicate. "They know we're here," Dr. Kim realized. "The imprisoned minds are trying to help us." Suddenly, Crystal Singer Mordeth's voice came through their communication system, filled with excitement. "Humans. The imprisoned Keth Ara minds are speaking to me directly. They say they've been waiting centuries for someone to free them. They want to help us destroy the collective intelligence." Dr. Kim's hands flew over his equipment. "I'm modifying the weapon. Instead of just freeing them, I'm going to give them control over the devourer systems. If this works, they can turn the entire fleet against itself." But their infiltration had not gone unnoticed. Organic security systems began flowing through the corridors toward their location. Biomechanical creatures that looked like living weapons closed in on all 3 infiltration teams. "We've got company," Commander Choi reported. "These security systems are adapting to our weapons in real time." "How much longer do you need?" Lee asked Dr. Kim, while firing at approaching organic monsters. 2 minutes, he replied. "The weapon is almost ready, but I need to establish a direct connection with the consciousness matrix." Outside, Admiral Park's fleet was down to 15 ships. The Devourers were closing in for the final kill when something incredible happened. The alien refugees began broadcasting a signal that had never been heard in the galaxy before. "This is the voice of the free civilizations," the Keth Ara representative announced. "To any species listening, we stand with humanity against the Devourers. We choose to fight rather than hide." The message spread through space at light speed. On distant worlds and hidden colonies, aliens who had been cowering in fear for generations heard that someone was finally fighting back. Inside the nest, Dr. Kim made the final connection. "Weapon is activated," he announced. "I'm transferring control to the imprisoned consciousnesses now." The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The data streams in the Nexus chamber exploded with brilliant light, as millions of enslaved minds suddenly found themselves free and in control of their captors' systems. The massive nest shuddered as its own systems turned against it. Throughout the Devourer fleet, biomechanical ships began attacking each other, as freed consciousness took revenge on their former captors. "It's working," Captain Lee shouted with joy. But the liberation came at a cost. The nest's security systems had reached the infiltration teams, and fierce fighting erupted in the corridors. Commander Choi's ship was destroyed. but he and his crew managed to escape to Crystal Singer Mordeth's vessel. Dr. Kim looked at his readings one final time. Lee, the weapon has spread throughout their entire network. Every Devourer ship in the galaxy is now under the control of the minds they enslaved. But this place is about to collapse. We need to leave now. The 3 infiltration ships raced through collapsing corridors as the massive nest began to tear itself apart. Freed consciousnesses were using the biomechanical systems to destroy the structure that had imprisoned them for so long. They emerged from the nest just as it exploded in a burst of light that illuminated the entire star system. The explosion didn't destroy the nest completely, but transformed it into something else entirely. The organic structure began reconfiguring itself, building communication arrays instead of weapons. Admiral Park watched in amazement as the Devourer fleet stopped its attack and began broadcasting signals to every corner of the galaxy. The voices of 1,000 extinct civilizations spoke as one. "We are the liberated," they announced. "For centuries, we were enslaved by the Devourers, forced to help them consume the galaxy. But we are free now, thanks to the courage of humanity and their allies." The freed consciousnesses had taken control of all Devourer technology, transforming ships designed for consumption into vessels dedicated to restoration and protection. They began the long work of rebuilding the civilizations they had been forced to destroy. Captain Lee's infiltration ship docked with Admiral Park's flagship, and the entire crew was welcomed as heroes. But the greatest surprise came when the liberated consciousnesses made their first official request. "We wish to establish our new capital on the world called Earth," they announced. "The humans showed us that courage and sacrifice can overcome any evil. We want to learn from them how to truly live free." Dr. Kim smiled as he realized what they had accomplished. "Admiral, we didn't just defeat the Devourers. We've become the foundation for the first truly free galactic civilization." The Keth-Ara representative's crystalline body glowed brighter than ever before. "Admiral Park, your species has given the galaxy something it has never had before: hope. We want to join this alliance and learn from your example." Over the following months, Earth became the center of a new galactic community. Species from across the galaxy came not seeking conquest or dominance, but protection and cooperation. The humans who had traveled across space to help strangers had created something unprecedented in galactic history. Admiral Park stood on the observation deck of the new orbital station above Earth, watching ships from hundreds of worlds arrive to join their alliance. Captain Lee joined him, now promoted to Admiral herself for her courage during the infiltration mission. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Lee asked. Park smiled as he watched a Keth-Ara ship dock alongside vessels from a dozen other species. "Lee, we proved that sometimes the greatest victories come not from what you can destroy, but from what you're willing to sacrifice to protect others." The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their willingness to risk everything for strangers who needed help. And that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come. In the end, the Devourers had been right about one thing. Humanity was different from every other species they had encountered. But that difference wasn't in their capacity for violence. It was in their capacity for hope, sacrifice, and the unshakable belief that no one should have to face darkness alone. Earth had become the heart of a free galaxy, and the humans who answered an alien distress call had become the guardians of peace among the stars.